Welcome back to Mom and Pop Video Shop. I'm Joel, and that
I'm Tyson.
Guy over there is Tyson, and of course, we are your humble clerks here at Mom and Pops. And this episode, we are reviewing I would argue, I think it's a shockingly underseen, but interesting, if nothing else, horror flick, Christmas based. So what do you say, Tyson? I think we'll jump right into it, and then stay tuned. At the end of this video, we're going to talk a little bit more about our live stream that we have coming up very soon. So be sure to stick around for that. But I say in the meantime, Tyson, if you're ready, I'd like to get into a little discussion of Dead End from 2003.
I am definitely ready because I don't believe I've ever seen this one.
Okay, so Dead End is a 2003 horror film from directors Jean-Baptiste Andrea. I hope I'm saying that right. And Fabrice Canepa. They also wrote this movie. It stars Ray Wise, Lynn Shay, Mick Cain, and Alexandra Holden, as well as some others. It is set on Christmas Eve, and it tells the story. And I'm gonna use the IMDb synopsis because I feel like that's oftentimes the easiest and sometimes the most hilarious way to give you a synopsis for these movies. Christmas Eve, on his way to his in-laws with his family, Frank Harrington, that's the Ray Wise character, decides to try a shortcut for the first time in 20 years. Turns out to be the biggest mistake of his life. Dead End is a very interesting movie. I actually saw this right at the time it came out on video in 2003-ish, because that's the release date. So I'm assuming that's when I saw it. So I saw it, new release, first time, and I remember thinking it was fine. Like, it was okay. Now, keeping in mind, I'm in like my late 20s because it was 20 years ago. So I was like about 27 when I saw this. And I don't want to say I was sort of jaded with this particular like time period of horror, but at that point, we got a lot of Scream knockoffs already, and there was a certain look and a feel that I think I personally needed some distance from to reappraise my feelings, because I will tell you, rewatching Dead End this time, it was a lot more fun and a lot more interesting. Now, it's basically an hour and 40 some odd minute Twilight Zone episode. And if you've seen certain Twilight Zone episodes or seen the movie Carnival of Souls, you can totally guess what's going on very early in this movie. But that's okay, because even with that knowledge going into the movie or figuring it out very shortly thereafter, it doesn't still prepare you for some of the directions it takes with the characters. And it also has an ending that is unexpected. So that's all I'm going to say on that, because I don't want to spoil it. But Dead End it sort of just focuses on this family. The beginning, it's mostly in the car. Like, a lot of it's in the car and on the road. Very little takes place anywhere else. It deals with the dynamics of this family. The son, played by Mick Cain, I believe that's the son. Let me make sure on that. Yes, Mick Cain plays Richard, and is your typical teenager who is a pain in the ass. And his sister, played by Alexandra Holden, who you'd probably recognize from was it Hot Chick? I think it was Hot Chick, the Rob Schneider movie from back in that around that same time period. And she is an interesting character because she's potentially as college student, I'm guessing, because they make a comment about her being a student psychiatrist. She's obviously going into psychiatry, and they turn to her quite a bit. But at the same time, her parents treat her like a child, often like her, along with her brother. She's actually accompanied by her boyfriend, played by William Rosenfeld or Rosenfield. He is actually, I think it's Rosenfeld, who is Brad. That's her boyfriend. And there's this constant back and forth between Brad and Richard that is somewhat amusing. But the standout performances in this movie are Ray Wise and Lynn Shay. They are both fantastic. And when they need to go over the top, they do it in their most magnificent way possible. When they need to be a little bit more subdued and really kind of ground their emotions in the humanity of the characters, they do that superbly. And the movie is interesting because there's moments where it could have gone super gory, and you think, oh, is it going to be one of those where they were going for like a PG-13 and they're holding back? But it's actually clever because without giving away what's going on, by them not showing the full extent of what happens to certain characters, it sets up certain sight gags and things that you can use your imagination for what that must have meant for what happened to them in actuality is the best way I'll put it. But there is something involving a lip tearing situation that is repugnant. So it's like it holds back, and then it hits you with something, which I think oftentimes is the best way to hit people with gore. Either go full on early Peter Jackson, balls to the wall, Evil Dead 2, Brain Dead, aka Dead Alive, Bad Taste kind of gore, or hold back, and then just every once in a while, boom, hit them. And this movie does that exceptionally well. The only knock I have on this movie, because it's Christmas Eve, and there's a point where the family sings Jingle Bells, and so but there's almost no Christmas music. And I feel like if the score even had just had those little musical cues, or I always think about like Lethal Weapon, right? They have that, or Die Hard, you get that chink, 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 that like the bell in the distance kind of thing. Something like that. There's none of that. The music is very early 2000s at times. It's always like techno, you know what I mean? Like feels like you're in a Blade movie for a second, that kind of thing, which is fine in a certain context. And now we have a weird nostalgia for that, I think. But for this movie, I think it would have been more effective had they gone the route of a little bit more of like a festive sort of music palette. So that's really my only knock on this movie. But for me, Dead End 2003 is a 3-tape. I would absolutely, and in fact, I remember doing this. I kept it for the entire 3-night rental. I don't think it would have been one. I definitely wasn't then. It would not be one I necessarily would feel the need to keep for the late fees, though I will watch it again. I'd feel like rewatching it. This is only the second time I've seen it in 20 years. And this viewing, and maybe it is just the nostalgia now, we're 20 years on, you start to be like, oh, what a simpler time in its own weird way. Even, though the world was just kind of crazy in its own way, then it still seems simpler for some reason, because that's what nostalgia does to you. But for me, it's a 3-taper. I'd say you'd absolutely want to keep it for the full 3-day rental. And that's it for us here at Mom and Pop's Video Shop. So don't forget, and I know Tyson will never forget, this Friday, December 15th, 7 p.m. Eastern, we are doing a live stream. Our last one was in October. We were hoping to do it in November. December 15th, this Friday, if you're seeing this on the day it drops,